Now, I don't know about you, but game week 28 was definitely one to forget for me. But I'm still inside the top 100k in 80k overall. But I can put it behind me now because my free hit is active. And here is my team selection for game week 29. Now, my decision to play the free hit, I think, is an important one to talk about first. So if I were to leave my team as it was, this is what it would look like. I would have, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4 playing players with only one free transfer to deal with it. So I think, for me, it's pretty obvious that in my position, I should play my free hit. But I thought it would be useful to include in this video, and I've done this in previous videos I've made this week, you know, my sort of cut-off points for when I would play my free hit and when I wouldn't. Now, it's not hard and fast, right? Everyone's got a different team and different circumstances, etc. So it's really hard for me to say, in these exact circumstances, you should do exactly this. So what I've tried to do is put together some rough guidelines as to when I think you should use your free hit and when you can avoid it. Now, to use your free hit, I think it's when you don't have a good amount of midfielders and forwards. When you look at the fixtures we've got coming up in game week 29, I think there's going to be a lot of goals, right? Burnley, Brentford, Luton, Forest, Fulham, Spurs, and West Ham, Aston Villa. And when you look at the clean sheet odds, the best team, the most likely team to keep a clean sheet, has clean sheet odds of 31%, right? So that suggests to me that there are going to be goals this game week. So I think if you don't have a good amount of midfielders and forwards in your non-free hit team, you should really consider your free hit because, you know, regardless of how the game week goes, I think the only thing you can pretty much guarantee is there's going to be a fair few goals, right? I'd also say if you can't easily bring in your favourite captain for the game week, that's also another reason to consider doing it. Also, I think if you're fielding less than 8 players, I think if I was on less than 8 players, I'd feel quite uncomfortable going into game week 29. So yeah, that would be sort of a cut-off for me in terms of players. And also in terms of hits, I'd be worried about taking more than a -8. For me, I'm really hit averse. And I think a -8 is such a big hit that I wouldn't want to go any higher. So if you're looking at -12s to get a good team for game week 29, when you've got to think, a lot of the players you'll be bringing in for game week 29 to not free hit are players that you don't necessarily want long term. So I think if I'm taking a hit of more than -8, I'd probably look to play my free hit. When to avoid it? Well, quite simply, if you see a better opportunity to use the free hit later on in the season. So when you look at the fixtures we've got coming up, obviously game week 29 is a blank, an opportunity to use your free hit chip. And looking into the future game weeks of the season, game week 34 could be a double for a very select few teams. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Everton and Sheffield United. And I think game week 37 is the other time where you could use it, right? It looks like it's going to be a likely double game week for a lot of popular teams. And yeah, you might want to use your free hit to set yourself up for that, basically. To give yourself 11 players with a double game week on game week 37. You could well do that. So just think about that, you know. Is it best for your team, your particular circumstances, to use it to cover this blank in 29? Or could you potentially save it for game week 37 when teams like Arsenal, Brighton, Chelsea, Fulham, Liverpool, Man United, Newcastle, Tottenham and Wolves all have a double game week. Bear with me there while I was reading off the screen. So I think that's a question to ask yourself. Also, again, you know, it's the opposite to what I said when to use it. If you've got a good team of 9 to 11 players, I wouldn't really worry about free hitting. And likewise, if you already have a good set of midfielders and forwards, say you're 3-4-3, don't necessarily have any good defenders or goalkeepers, but you've got 4 good midfielders, 3 good forwards, or 5 and 2, then you can probably avoid it because, like I said, I don't think there's going to be a great deal of clean sheets to go around this week, but I do think there's going to be lots of goals, and I'd be worried not to have the top midfielders and forwards covered. All right, then moving on to my team selection. So I've gone for Flecken in goal, Reguilon, Pedro Porro, and Doughty in defence. For me, I went for Flecken as we saw Brentford have the best clean sheet odds of any team for game week 29. So I've picked the goalkeeper with the top clean sheet odds. Do I think he's going to keep a clean sheet? Probably not. But I do think he's got the most, you know, the highest likelihood of doing so. And Flecken, he's decent for saves as well. So regardless of whether he keeps a clean sheet, I'd hope that he gets at least 3 or 4 saves to give him some bonus points. Now, I've got Reguilon in there currently. Thomas Frank left him out of the team in Game Week 28 and said that he had a minor hamstring injury, but he should be fit for the Burnley fixture in Game Week 29. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait and hear what he has to say in the press conference. If he says that Reguilón's going to be fit, I'll stick with him. And then if he's not going to be fit, I'll go for Roerslev. It's that simple, really. So I've gone for Reguilón at the moment, but it could well be Roerslev. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it could well be the other wing back. Pedro Porro and Doughty, the other guys. Basically, the key I've gone for on these defenders are the best attacking defenders available to me. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be many clean sheets to go around, so I might as well pick the defenders with the most likelihood of attacking returns. And Pedro Porro and Doughty, I mean, we all know that they're two of the best attacking defenders in the game, right? So I don't really need to talk about them too much. Not worried about clean sheets as such, just want to maximise attacking returns. And just getting onto a bit more detail about Reguilón, I think if he is fit, he's the best combination of expected minutes, clean sheet odds, and expected goal involvement. He has been, playing for Brentford at least, a pretty exciting prospect. You can see here, 10 starts, 3 clean sheets, 4 attacking returns. So what's that? 7 returns from his 10 starts at Brentford so far. 0.2 expected returns per 90. Doesn't light the world up, but for a defender, that's a really good number. And yeah, like I said, I just think he's the best combination of clean sheet odds, expected goal involvement, and probably expected minutes as well, if he's fit. So for that reason, I think he's probably the best defender for Game Week 29. All right, then onto the midfield. I've gone for Son, Douglas Luiz, Jared Bowen, and James Maddison. Although I'd say one of these positions is a little bit up in the air. And there, to be honest, are 3 options for my sort of 4th midfield spot. Douglas Luiz could be there. I'll talk about him in a second, actually. I really like him as an option. He just keeps scoring goals and getting assists, right? He's absolutely nailed to start for Aston Villa, takes their penalties and plays 90 minutes. Of course, he's got a fixture in Game Week 29. He's really good for bonus points as well when he does return. So when he does get an attacking return, he's usually up there for, 3 bonus every game. And also, he's just genuinely one of the best players at this price point, right? When you look at the points across the season, at this price point, Douglas Luiz comes out, relatively near the top. However, Leon Bailey is a very good option as well at the same price. Bailey, I'd suggest, is probably a little bit better from open play, whereas obviously Douglas Luiz, he's definitely more guaranteed for minutes, and of course he takes the penalties. And I really like penalty takers. You can kind of see a theme across the team, well, the rest of the players in this team. I really like penalty takers because it gives them a chance to score a goal in any game, regardless of how well their team is playing. The only sort of downside to Douglas Luiz is the McGinn red card. Unfortunately, John McGinn got sent off in Game Week 28, so he's going to miss Game Week 29. And I'd have question marks now as to what Douglas Luiz's position is going to be. With Boubacar Kamara injured as well, is Douglas Luiz going to play that sitting midfielder role? And yeah, if he does, he's probably a less exciting prospect. Obviously, Leon Bailey, like I said, he's better from open play, less guaranteed minutes. Although, after watching Luton, they are hopeless defensively, right? I watched them against Bournemouth. Their second half, they just completely fell apart. So Gibbs White, right? I've not got him in this team yet, but he could be an option just because I don't think he's a better player or a better option than Douglas Luiz or Bailey, like long term. But just because he's facing Luton, I think there could be goals for Gibbs White. So those are the 3 players I'm kind of weighing up at the moment. Douglas Luiz, Leon Bailey, or Gibbs White for that sort of 4th midfielder spot. The rest of them are pretty nailed on. Son, I've gone for him as my captain. I'll talk a little bit more about captaincy towards the end of the video to help you decide, but I've gone for Son myself. Jared Bowen and James Maddison are my other couple of midfielders. I really like the both of them. I think they're nailed on to start for their respective team. Bowen's having a fantastic season. I think he's capable of scoring goals against anyone, particularly with Paqueta in the team. To be honest, it's just a shame he doesn't take the penalties for West Ham. And then James Maddison, he is focal to everything that Spurs do from an attacking perspective, in my opinion. He hasn't necessarily, since returning from injury, got the level of attacking returns that he had pre-injury, but he did get a goal in Game Week 28. I'm hoping that allows him to kick on and get some attacking returns for Game Week 29. On to the forwards then. I've got Watkins, Toney and Morris. I think Watkins, he's just an absolute shoo-in, right? The top scoring player in FPL currently, and I think he's now on 31 attacking returns for the season. I'm putting the Villa 4-0 loss against Spurs behind me in Game Week 28 because it was a kind of one-off performance for me, right? I think they'll be back firing again for Game Week 29 and hopefully Watkins can get amongst the attacking returns against West Ham. Toney, I had a few people in the comments of my previous free hit draft suggesting that I should go for Wissa instead of Toney. I do think there's a little bit of recency bias there because, of course, Wissa scored in Game Week 28 and Tony didn't. I still think Tony is by far and away the best Brentford option. Nailed on to start for them, plays 90 minutes, takes their penalties, unquestionably is their talisman. Just unfortunate, really, that he's been playing a little bit deeper in recent games. I think that's just because he's so good with his link-up play. Brentford have been kind of relying on that in order to score their goals. The one thing I'd definitely say about Tony is he plays a lot better when Mbeumo's in the team because he's got Mbeumo to run off him and Wissa. And I just think once Brentford get back to that front three, Tony will be an even better option. One thing I will say is that Mbeumo, I'm pretty sure I saw a video of him back in training. That was sort of Thursday, Friday last week. So if he's been in training for a week, does that potentially mean that he could play in Game Week 29? It's just a question to ask, I'd guess. I do think Tony is the most likely to start, obviously, of course. And I don't think Mbeumo is a pickable player for 29 just because there's so much doubt around his minutes. And he's not going to be taking the penalties when Tony's in the team. And I just think of all the captaincy options, I think there are 3 captaincy options this week. Little teaser to what I'm going to talk about next. Son, Watkins and Tony are your 3 best captaincy options, right? And I think Tony's got the best fixture of the 3. So just one thing to consider there. And I've gone for Morris as my 3rd striker. I just think similar upside to Tony, really. Nailed on for Luton, 90-minute man. Takes the penalties. I think against every defence I've seen him face this season, he's really given them problems. So yeah, I think he could easily do that again against Nottingham Forest. Yes, he didn't score in Game Week 28, but I'm not letting that put me off going for him in 29. The only kind of question I guess you could have is, do you play a 3-5-2 and bench Morris? I'm going to start Morris in a 3-4-3, but if you fancy a Nottingham Forest midfielder alongside Louise or Bailey, then you could potentially play 3-5-2, but that is the team. The one thing left to talk about then is who am I going to captain? Now, looking at the draft time expected points, I've taken this screenshot today, and there's slightly different expected points to the figures you see for the team that I presented. Son, Watkins, Bowen, Maddison, Douglas, Louise is the top 5. So they have Son as the captaincy pick, Watkins in 2nd place, and Bowen in 3rd place. You can see there for me, I've gone for Son myself, but I'll just talk about a second source before coming to a conclusion. FPL Review has Son at number 1 again, Tony 2nd, and Watkins in 3rd place. I've seen over the last couple of days, the way that the points have been updated, Tony and Son have been kind of going like that. One hour yesterday, I saw Tony at the top, and then I saw Son at the top towards the end of the day. So it's kind of, depending on the FPL Review algorithm, it's going up and down, which obviously suggests that it's close right between the two. But I've never seen Watkins at number 1. And I think FPL Review hopefully kind of has the same views that I do, is that Son and Tony are their respective teams' penalty takers and Watkins isn't. And Son and Tony with those penalties means, regardless of how their team plays, right, even if they drop a stinker like Aston Villa did in Game Week 28, right, all they need is a penalty to score a goal. Obviously, they could miss a penalty, granted, but Tony and Son are pretty good penalty takers, right? And yeah, all they need is a penalty to score a goal, depending, regardless of how their team play. I would say there are two kind of ways I play the captaincy, right? If I'm happy with my rank and I'm looking to just consolidate and just have a smooth 3-hit game week, I put it on Son. I think he is most likely to score the most points and he's going to be the most popular captain. But the weeks where you can go differential with captain, in my opinion, is when there are multiple decent options. It's not like Haaland has got a double game week, then you go in differential. I'd say that's a bit silly because, ultimately the pain of going badly, that captain going badly, is greater than the pain of going differential and it going, or the upside, sorry, of going differential and it going well for you. But this week, with so many captaincy options, I think you can go different. And if you're looking to chase, I would definitely consider Ivan Toney because I don't think he's going to be owned by absolutely everyone in the game. There are people that aren't going to be playing their free hits and probably won't own Ivan Toney either. They might have gone for Morris because obviously Morris had a fixture in Game Week 28. So for that reason, if I was chasing, I think I'd go for Toney. Like I said, the algorithms, they don't necessarily suggest there's too much in it. Obviously, the draft hand one doesn't really have Toney even in the same echelon as Son, right? But FPL Review have had the two kind of neck and neck for expected points, which makes me think that Toney's a decent option. So to summarise all that waffle, there are 2 captaincy options and 2 ways I think you can play it. If you're looking to hold your rank and just have a smooth Game Week 29, I think you go for Son because it's less risky. Toney is a little bit more risky, but if it pays off, I think the reward could be great. And when you look at the fixtures the 2 players have got, Fulham on their day can turn up, I think, and beat anyone. But at the moment, Burnley, who Tony has, are absolutely shocking. And I think he's got the best fixture of the two options. So yeah, Son if I'm looking to just hold rank, and Tony if I'm looking to chase. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that, and I have to say, apologies if you heard me sniffling a couple of times during that. I'm definitely coming down with a cold, and I find it really hard to record this without getting a sneeze in or a cough in or something. So apologies for that. Yeah, hopefully you can yeah, let me off for that one. I'm human, I get ill sometimes, it happens, right? If you enjoyed the video all the same, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments, right, if you agree or disagree with some of the picks that I have in the free hit draft, and also your thoughts on captaincy too. You know, FPL is all about different opinions, right? So if everyone had the same opinion, we'd all have the same team. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what yours is, if it's different or of course the same to mine, but just be polite about it in the comments, please. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, leave a like rating. Let me know in the comments what I just said. Subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there. I'm going to point on screen at this thing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.